You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show podcast, the podcast show where we unlock potential one dream at a time. Today, we have another guest whose journey is truly worth hearing. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Moneyway experience.
What's up, my good people? Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show in association with Believe Entertainment, the podcast that brings you stories behind the success. Today, we have a fabulous writer and storyteller on the show, the author of the highly acclaimed book, Flicker in the Water, Bob Gonzalez. How you doing, Bob?
Hello, CJ. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you for joining the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So, Bob, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background.
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania. I used to do a lot of deer hunting up there. Deer hunting was a big sport up there in near the Poconos. That's in northeastern PA. I used to go fishing in the summer times in New Jersey, and I played baseball in school, and I came down to Florida one year for the spring, and I went back up to Pennsylvania after being in 75 degrees and sunny weather, and I got back up there and it was 45 and it was cold and blustery, and you'd hit the ball and it would get stuck in the mud, and I said, man, I want to be back in Florida. So I came down here in my early 20s and I stayed. I've been here ever since, and I'm pushing 60 now, so I've been here a long time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Recently, as we're going to talk about, I wrote a book about my fishing experiences down here in Florida. It's called The Flicker in the Water. So we'll get into that here in a minute.
Yeah. So with that being said, man, with writing your book, Flicker in the Water, what inspired you to start writing?
You know, in school, some of the teachers used to tell me that I wrote really well, and I never really took it all that seriously, you know. And then one day I found I had some time on my hands and some stories that I thought people would like about the ocean and about the fish. And I decided to start writing a book, and it turned into this book. And I'm glad that I did it. It's a lot of fun. I've had some great compliments from people. It's good for kids and adults. And I'm glad I did it. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So with your fishing experience, when did you actually start having a passion for fishing?
Well, I always had a passion for it. Even when I was little, like 7, 8 years old, I would go to lakes and things and catch little sunnies and bluegills, and I'd bring them home. And it's just something I always loved to do. Even when there's just such a feeling of having that fish at the end of your line that, I don't know, it's an adrenaline rush that it's hard for me to get anywhere else. And I liked it ever since then, you know. And I was 11 years old when I caught my first ocean fish. It was a bluefish in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And I've loved it ever since.
You know, man, I've known people that go fishing because I used to like to sit out on the banks and drink beer, you know, take cases of beer out there, drink beer, catch fish on the bank. You know what, man, I'm 50 years old. I've never, not one time went fishing. I've never been fishing.
Really? Oh, wow. Man, you got to try it, man. CJ, how far are you from Canada?
Probably about 5 or 6 hours away from Canada because I'm 4 hours outside of Detroit.
Canada, well, even Michigan, and it's got some great lakes and streams and stuff, you know. Make sure you get a fishing license. I remember hearing one story. This guy in Arkansas, he broke the state record for a largemouth bass. And he got all excited and he started telling everybody, and he took it down to get it weighed in officially. And he was ready to win his prize money and this and that. And then it turns out he didn't have a fishing license, so the record didn't stand.
Oh, man.
So the moral of the story is always get a fishing license.
Bob, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I said, I'm 50 years old and I ain't never been fishing before unless you encourage me with this flicker in the water to go out and fish. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so Bob, for those of us who may not know this, what is an angler?
An angler, I think that the angle where you throw the where you cast the rod in the bait, I think that's probably why they came up with that word angler, because you're throwing at an angle instead, like you're casting at an angle. There's different kinds of fishing, though. We do angling where we cast, but we also do bottom fishing where we put the bait all the way down at the bottom and you wait for the fish to bite. And as soon as you feel that first bite from the fish, you start cranking like crazy and you pull the fish up. And then there's trolling, too, where you just drag your baits along the water. And sometimes you see the fish take it. That's very exciting. When you see a fish come on your bait, that's a great feeling. But angler, I think, comes from casting, where you throw the bait.
Well, I take it that if you got to start reeling once the fish start biting, then I take it that you're not catching baby fish out there.
No, you catch some big fish that way, some groupers and snappers and amberjacks and who knows, sharks sometimes. You just never know what you're going to catch when you throw that line in the water.
Nah, no, definitely I'm not going fishing, talking about some sharks there, Bob.
Yeah.
So, Bob, tell us about your highly acclaimed book, Flicker in the Water.
The book is a collection of short stories. Most of them are my own, not all of them, but a lot of them are. And I wrote it in a way that people who've never been fishing, CJ, I wrote it just for you. Since you've never been fishing, I wanted to make you feel what the experience was like. And I wanted to make you feel like you were out on the water with us. And I've had a few people tell me, I felt like I was right there with you. You captured the scenery and the sights and the...
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Sounds and this, everything around what it's like being on the ocean. And I'm glad that people have told me that, because I wrote it with that purpose in mind.
Okay, so tell me, Bob, tell us what a reader is actually, what can we take away from your book as being people that have, never fished before and things of that nature, or even fishermen themselves? What can people actually take from your book?
Well, I talk about what the oceans mean to us as human beings, what they've meant throughout the history of mankind, the animals that are out there. In fact, land and sea animals were, if you believe in the Bible, they were put on the planet a day before humans were. So, I talk a little bit about things like that and what fish mean what they've meant through humanity throughout the ages. And I actually learned a few things myself while I was talking about the currents and the flows of the water, the way they kind of like those currents that flow in those, like the Gulf Stream and the Loop Current in the Gulf of Mexico, they actually help refresh and keep the Gulf clean, Remember when they had that Horizon oil spill way back then in the early 2000s?
Yeah.
Yeah, people thought that oil spill was going to ruin the Gulf of Mexico forever, but it didn't. It self-cleaned itself. With the currents took that oil spilled water and they dispersed it and they moved it on out of there. So now the water is as fresh as it's ever been. And, things like that. I talk about what fish mean to us, not only from, we can eat the fish, but what they, how good you feel when you're on the water. You feel it's just you, the boat, and the sky and the stars, and when there's water all around you, you really feel connected to nature. I think there's a feeling out there that, for me, I can't get that on land nearly as much. I have like a connection to nature when you're out there. It's something really satisfying. And not only in a spiritual way, but it's also the smells of the water contains a lot of salt, phosphorus, and oxygen, things like that. They help you physically if you have ailments. Being on the water or near the beach can really cure a lot of those things just by its natural healing properties, things like that. So it's more than just about fishing, although there's plenty of that in there too.
Yeah, I mean, you said something that really made me think about it, man. In that aspect, you say that the animals was put on the earth a day before humans when God created animals, and then he created Adam and Eve. And then I was sitting here thinking how amazing it was how God already knew what the animals were, and he told Adam to name them. And so a fish wasn't a fish until Adam named it a fish. I was just sitting here thinking when you said that, man, it just popped in my head like that. Like, wow, how amazing and a wonderful God we serve. So, Bob, tell us a little bit about some of the high-profile endorsements your book have received.
Well, if everybody remembers The Old Man and the Sea from Ernest Hemingway, his granddaughter Mariel wrote the foreword for me. She said the book, spoke to her with a deep sense of appreciation. And coming from her, that meant a lot to me. My father was from Cuba, and where Old Man and the Sea was written when Ernest was living in Havana. And I just thought, Mariel would be a perfect fit, and let's contact her and see if she likes the book. And thankfully she did. And she wrote a really nice foreword for me, and that means a lot to me. I also got a letter from Dick Vitale. Dickie V sent me a letter, and he's having a lot of problems right now with cancer and stuff, and I'm praying for his well-being. But yeah, he thanked me for sending him his book and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Don't miss out on CJ Moneyway's book, Both Eyes Open and Both Eyes Shut. And get ready to pre-order his upcoming release, The Issues of Life, coming soon. Moneyway, aiming to inspire.
Yeah, endorsements, and when people of a high status reach out to you, because sometimes we may not feel like, sometimes you have a little self-doubt and things of that nature, but I don't care what nobody say, man. There's nothing wrong with some encouragement from other people, and then especially when you get something from, as you throw your fishing net out there all the way in the sea and catch that big one, there's no feeling like that, man, when somebody can just boost your confidence on that level where Dick Vitale come back and say, hey, Bob, hey, I love your book. Thank you. And, even though he's going through what he's going through, but he can take the time out and congratulate you on your success, man. There's no greater feeling than that, I know.
It was terrific. It meant a lot to me for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, take that in, man, and keep that. That's one of them experiences you like, you know what? I never forget this one. I can take that to the coffee table with my friends. Like, yeah, Big Vitale, yeah, he reached out to me, gave me a letter.
Yeah.
See, it is right here.
Yeah.
Hey, so Bob, what are some of the challenges you face while fishing for swordfish, blue marlins, and the likes of?
Well, the first challenge is sometimes to always be aware of the weather. The ocean can be a very dangerous place at times if you're not careful. Always check your weather reports. Like right now in the Gulf, they're going to be having a hurricane here soon, and always be aware of what the weather forecast is saying, where the winds are blowing, in what direction, and how strong, where the currents are flowing, that kind of thing. As far as the fish itself, make sure you have plenty of bait, plenty of lures. Make sure all the knots are tied right, because the last thing you want to do is to get a fish on the line and then have him break off because you didn't tie the knot correctly or something like that, because that can happen. Anything that you can control, make sure that it's done 100%, because there's plenty of most of the fish are lost right at the boat. So, even under the best of conditions, the fish is in his element until you get him on the boat. And so, it's kind of, I call it a home sea advantage.
Yeah, because I can just, looking at movies like Shark and things like of that nature, and how they be in the water and they fins be kicking it, and while they coming up out of the water and everything, how they can get just real, antsy and tough, So I can imagine just doing it. No, I can't imagine it doing live because I won't. But I can imagine you out there doing it live, catching a swordfish or a blue marlin or something like that, and trying to reel that sucker in, man. Hey, more power to you, Bob. Hey, so on that note, Bob, tell us one of the scariest times you had on the open sea.
Well, most people who are on the sea at one time or another are going to run into some rough weather. And, I was no exception. I ran into it a couple of times. One time we were out there fishing about 60 miles offshore, and it's a beautiful, clear, sunny day with light wind, with perfect, ideal. And all of a sudden you would see a swell, which is a big wave, and then, 60 seconds later, you'd see another swell. And then 60 seconds after that, you'd see another one. And then the time in between the swell started getting shorter, from 60 to 30 to 20. And then it was just like constant swell. So we said, we better start heading on back. And one of the guys on board wanted to do the opposite. He wanted to keep going out further. But we started heading back. And on the way back, it got so rough. We felt we were like, on the crew from Gilligan's Island, on the SS Minnow. But we were chopping around all over the ocean, but we got back safely and everything was okay.
Man, you say Gilligan's Island, it kind of put me in the mind of that movie Wind Chasers, when they was out there in the wind and everything, the boat shaking and they, fall out the boat. You got to catch it and try to stay on. Yeah. See, that's why I can't do it, Bob. I got certain type of fears and anxiety about certain things, like riding on mountains and things of that nature. I just can't do it. So, Bob, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. I just got one more question for you before we leave. What other hobbies or passions do you have besides fishing?
Well, I like sports, as we were talking a little bit earlier. I'm just like you, man. I've been a sports fan all my life, I like basketball, football, baseball, I have pretty much all my life. I just finished writing a little article about the 1972 Miami Dolphins, and one of the lines in my book says, neither fishermen or fish go through a full season undefeated unless you're the 1972 Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And they always on pins and needles about that too. When somebody getting close to that record, boy, I've never seen so many haters
I know.
in my life. Boy, Doc Shula, all of them be on point. Okay, Bob, real quick. You're a sports fan. I'm a sports fan. Let's do this real quick. Favorite basketball team?
Well, back in the day, the Chicago Bulls, of course.
Okay, me, Lakers. Favorite football team?
Miami Dolphins.
For me, used to be the Cowboys, and I put used to be. Okay, favorite baseball team?
Okay, growing up, since I grew up in Pennsylvania, I love the Pittsburgh Pirates, but ever since I came down to Florida, the Tampa Bay Rays.
Tampa Bay Rays? Oh, my goodness. I mean, they always have a solid team during the season or whatnot, but I had to go with the Yankees. Although I'm from the Chicago area, I like the Cubs, and you can see I have a White Sox hat on. Not necessarily a White Sox fan, but they lost 100 games. They were the quickest to lose 100 games this year, and so in history, and that's something else. So, Bob, whenever you get ready to promote your book, man, it would be an honor if you come on the Moneyway Show and let's talk about this historical book that you have written when it get published, man, so we can get deeper into this sports game.
All right, CJ. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, man. So is there anything that you would like to say, any last remarks that you would like to leave before we get out of here?
Well, if you'd like to feel like you are out on the ocean, whether you've ever been or not, go to my website, flickerinthewater.com, and there's lots of stories there and videos, and you can press the link to my books right from there. And it's good for kids, good for adults, and we'll see you out on the high seas.
Hey, you heard it here on the CJ Moneyway Show. We'll see you on the high seas. Go grab my man Bob Gonzalez book, A Flicker in the Water. You have been listening to the CJ Moneyway Show. It's your boy CJ Moneyway. We out of here. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the CJ Moneyway Show. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends, leave a comment, and drop a review. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Friday for more inspiring journeys. Who knows? Your story might be next.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.